Welcome, everyone. We're here all together on the last day of the Clock Global Institute. I know this is one of the last sessions, and we're all here together in Las Vegas. And we've made it through the sessions. And I want to, since we're in Las Vegas, who is on the floor and playing casino games while you're here? Anybody? Anybody? A little bit? Okay, well, all right, since you didn't get a chance to, we're going to play a casino game here today. And it's really the hottest new casino game in the legal ops field. Yeah, they exist. And the name of this game is called Strategy Roulette. So first, let me introduce myself. I'm Bill Casey. I'm Deputy General Counsel at Harman International. And Harman, you may know our products and brands. We're the company behind JBL speakers and Harman Kardon audio products. And the purpose of my short 10-minute legal hack session today is to share with you 4 tips for presenting your strategic plan to the C-suite. And by C-suite, I mean, the CEO, the CFO, maybe the chief technology officer. You just have to imagine them all sitting around at a table, and you're presenting your strategic plan to them. And these are really the lessons learned from my own department and my own experience from really a 2-year journey in developing and presenting our strategic plan to the C-suite. All right, well, let's get to the game, which I know you're all really excited to play here. All right, well, it's very much like roulette, the casino game roulette. Has anybody played that, know how to play it? It's basically, yeah, maybe a little bit. So imagine I'm going to give each of you 50 chips. And then what you can do is you can see the roulette table on the right-hand side. It's got numbers from like 1 to 36. You can bet on odd or even, red or black. And then the dealer spins the wheel with a ball, and then it lands on one of the numbers. So you could think about taking your 50 chips, and maybe the numbers 1 through 12. You could think of those, maybe those are the core 12 clock focus areas for legal ops professionals. Maybe, numbers 13 through 24, those might represent your practice areas. So just think about where you would spread your chips in order to reflect your strategic plan. Now, if you're like my department, what we did is we spread our chips all across that table because we thought this is our chance to get in front of the CEO and all these executives and show everything we did, because we didn't think they really knew what we did or what the value we provided. So we thought the best way was to show them everything. And we had this grid of 24 different services that we provide. And we learned quickly that's not what the C-suite expects in a strategic plan. What they're looking for is, where are you going to focus? Because my main takeaway from this 2-year journey of presenting a strategic plan was, strategy and a strategic plan. It's really about making choices, because the C-suite, they're making choices all the time in terms of what services, what products do I make, what customers do I pursue. They're expecting us in the legal and compliance department to be making those same choices and those same decisions about where are we going to focus? I know we hear a lot about do more with less. What we heard from our C-suite was do less. You're doing too much. No one can do all that well. So maybe the services that are, you need to do them, but maybe you could outsource them. Maybe, these aren't the best use of your resources and your budget. So that's just, my first tip and lesson just in terms of presenting the strategic plan was really, highlight your focus areas, not everything you do. Now next, we've kind of done playing our strategy roulette game. We've picked our focus areas. Maybe we pick 3 to 5 areas to focus on. But the next question for you is going to be, and what they're going to be thinking is, why did you select those areas? What was your rationale? What was your decision making? because they don't, they're not as familiar with our industry and what we do. So they're going to be testing more about, as I mentioned, why did you make those choices? And really the best way to do that, and I'm sure you've heard this in many sessions, you have these 3 to 5 areas. Try to connect them to tell a cohesive story so that they can see the theme, the thread, the through line throughout their strategy. That's really what they're looking for in terms of listening to and evaluating your strategy. And I could say it's very difficult to keep that focus because I know in our 2-year journey, we came up with our own strategic plan template. Finance gave us one template, strategy gave us another template, consultants gave us some other ones. And you just can dutifully fill out the template and all your list of projects, but you lose that theme, you lose that story, you lose your audience. And that's what the CEO asked us was, what's your North Star here? What's your theme? So you always have to keep that in mind. And once again, my second tip is, tell a cohesive and clear story. And it's not just, a list of projects. They have to connect, not just a template, and, not just an aspirational mission statement. That's what our CEO reacted to was, proactively managing risk. Well, doesn't every department do that? What are you doing really uniquely to deliver value to the business? Then my third tip is now when you're playing strategy roulette, you need the chips. And as you place your bets, you need to know what's the return, what's the odds if I put, my chip on number 1 or I put it on odd or even or red or black, what's the return? And that's what the C-suite is going to be thinking about as well, is, what investments are needed, what's the cost, and what's the quantifiable benefit or the return on investment? What's my payback for this investment? And I was actually surprised that even in these times of really uncertainty, budgets being tight, is that they were willing to fund our investments if they could see the return. So I'm really going to encourage you all, to kind of go for it, ask for those investments, even like I mentioned in these times where things are uncertain and budgets are tight. Now, the mistake we made kind of early on was we thought, we had some benchmarking which said we were underfunded and we are understaffed, and we thought that would be the key. That going in, with giving the context of our annual budget, that, they would just unlock the doors and give us whatever we asked for. Actually, that was a distraction. We spent a lot of time just talking about, well, was that benchmarking accurate? I'm not sure I believe you on that. And that's not the discussion we wanted. That's a different discussion. Your steady state annual budget, you probably go through some kind of process with, maybe led by the CFO or some other function. But this is really different. So this is really about, asking for your funding for your strategic investments. It's not to defend or ask for an increase in your annual budget. That's a different venue, different forum, different discussion. And then my last tip is, and one of the other lessons learned was, now like in any casino game, you might spin the wheel 20 times, you might win some, you might lose some, but what you have to know, like in any casino game, right? Whatever you're playing is when to declare victory and when to walk away. So, and that's what we heard from the C-suite in presenting our plan is, when are you going to be done? You need to have clear goalposts so you can track whether, have you met your strategic plan? Can you check it off and say you've met it? Or do you need to make adjustments along the way? And they were sharing their own experience in terms of, I put together a strategy like that, which was more directional. We had things like, we wanted to upskill our team. And the questions was, well, how many people do you want to upskill? What's the investment? In what areas? When are you going to do it by? What's the return on investment? So really, really encourage all of you to push yourselves, to come up with those quantifiable benefits. I know it's challenging, But, just think of them as really, you know, defining where you're going to end up, and you can always make adjustments along the way. What I know the leader of one of the business units was really looking for and asked us was really, how are you going to show up differently? How are they going to experience the legal and compliance department differently as a result of your strategic plan? They see us as delivering a suite of services to them. So how are they going to experience it differently? I think, one that resonated, and I've seen in some of the other sessions when we said, had some quantifiable benefit after 3 years in implementing our CLM, will reduce turnaround time on contract reviews from 10 days to an average of 3 days. And they could, see the quantifiable benefit for them and how we would show up differently for them. So that's, my last tip is really about having these clear metrics so you know when you need to be done and when you can change course. So just in this quick 10-minute hack session, this is just a summary of my key tips like we talked about. Highlight your focus areas. Don't show value by listing everything you do. That's not going to resonate with the C-suite. Tell a cohesive story, not just a completed template or checklist of projects. And then really go for it. Ask for your strategic investments and not your business as usual budget. And define your success measures, just not sort of directional activities up or down on this activity. So I really appreciate your attention in this very quick 10-minute session, and I hope you take these tips and learn from our experiences. So thanks very much.